I gotta walk out like, oh, she was special. I walk in and go. They said, you working here? See, I'm doing a little bit of work.
Hey, Weekend Gabe here, hold down. We are working. Weekend Gabe holding down your Tuesday night here on Weekend at Gabe's. Thanks for everyone for giving us a follow and a shout on Twitch, on the social medias at Weekend Gabe, and checking us out here every Tuesday and Friday night on Weekend at Gabe's, where we bring you the best conversations from my studio, and also which also acts as the residence of my 18-month-old. But we collaborate here in our house, but that's what we do. Hopefully everyone is gearing up for a safe and wonderful Thanksgiving holiday coming up on Thursday. Please be safe. If you decide to not follow CDC guidelines and visit family, please wear a mask, please social distance, do your best. As you know, the pandemic is definitely hitting full stride in its second wave, and everything is a little bit out of control. So we definitely want anyone who's catching this show and riding in with us to please be safe and come out on the other side, where a vaccine apparently awaits us at some point. We will see. But anyways, just want everyone to be safe out there. Today was a pretty big day for the Grammys. They did their nominations. So this is only news that I probably only care about. Something really fascinating happened. So if you're like me and you're a big hip hop fan, you would have noticed that something definitely crazy happened today with the Grammy nominations in hip hop. One, that it was unexpected, but two, it was incredibly gratifying. If you didn't catch the nominations today, let me just tell you what happened. Beyonce, again, is the leader for the number of Grammy nominations. However, the best news, in my opinion, was when they announced that the best rap album will include Nas, Royce the 5'9", Jay Electronica, Freddie Gibbs and the Alchemist, and D-Smoke. Now, for any hip-hop head, they know what those names are. But if you also know that how the Grammys work, they normally don't include underground, non-commercial folk. Now, Nas is a very familiar household name. However, it should be noted that he is not or has not won a Grammy in his illustrious career. So this may be his moment to walk away with Grammy Gold. We'll find out. Is King's Disease the best record of this year? No. Is it a great record? Yes. Does it have a good chance? Absolutely. We'll find out. But it's very shocking to see a Freddie Gibbs land a Grammy nomination with also, drumroll please, The Alchemist. Two super underground heavy producer, MC, who would ever have thunk? I know there's been a lot of shifting around at the Grammys for people who actually listen to the music to have voting credentials, and whatever they're doing, they did it right. It's definitely different. It's definitely going to add a lot more seasoning to the game. Even the likes of Open Mike Eagle were like, yo, I got a chance at this thing now, which is phenomenal for artists who are putting out work and who don't get the heavy radio play or video play, have a chance at getting the notoriety. It is a great day for hip hop. Shout out to Precise. Thank you for checking in at Weekend at Gabe's. I salute you, sir. And but it's just a great day. I had like grown man tears reading this. It was an amazing day, and I hope that everyone really appreciates that this moment. The some of the other rap stuff that they popped up, I'm gonna keep it OG, and I don't know any of these people. But that's fine because I'm not supposed to know 19 and 20-year-olds who are making music. That's not really my speed. I pay attention, but that's not really my speed. But shout out to everyone who got nominated today, man. It's just a really good day for hip hop, and I'm really excited. Something that wasn't really too exciting. Your Chicago City Council decided to pass a $94 million budget, or home tax increase on Chicagoans, which is going to be super trash. So they passed the budget that includes more taxes on homeowners. So that includes myself, and I'm just not excited about that at all. But shout out to your mayor, who is ran on a progressive platform and doing very non-progressive things. You gotta love it. There was another item that popped up. Oh yes, if you haven't seen the Dave Chappelle bit that he does on his Instagram today, please take a moment to go venture over there and check it out. Trust me when I tell you, it's one of the most heartbreaking things that you will see on the internets or ever. And I feel awful because it's Chappelle's show, and if you were following Saturday Night Live a couple weeks ago when he was hosting, that he mentioned that Chappelle's show was on HBO Max, it was on Netflix, and that he doesn't get paid for any of this. Like, he doesn't get any publishing or, any on the syndication. None of that belongs to him. And he did this bit where he talks about like how he signed his contract with Comedy Central, and the language doesn't include any of the royalties. And he asked Netflix to pull the series, and they did. And I was just watching it yesterday. But one of the big takeaways was that he asked anyone watching to stop watching until they pay him. So, Netflix did that work for us, but it's on HBO Max, which I'm a subscriber. And to honor Dave, I will be following that. However, I own the DVDs, so I could watch the DVDs or just pretend that I'm boycotting. But she didn't say boycott, but he just said, hey, support him until they get his money right, which he definitely deserves. For those episodes are still hilariously classic. Almost 20 years now, or 15 years, however long it's been. They are still ridiculously funny. It's absolutely great. But venture over to Dave Chappelle's Instagram and give that a watch later on tonight. And it's funny, but also just super informative of just how evil the music and entertainment business is. It's just super trash. But anyways, so that's news that Gabe only cares about tonight here on Tuesday night, right before Thanksgiving. Joining us now on Weekend at Gabe's is someone that I met when they were interning, and I tried to get the plug through him, and he wasn't the plug, but he tried, and I appreciate that, and I give him a lot of credit for at least responding to my notice. Vashon Jordan Jr. joins us here on Weekend at Gabe's, who has the new book, Chicago Protest, A Joyful Resolution, on Amazon. I got to get my copy. I wasn't able to get it before tonight.
Oh, man.
Apologize, but I will definitely put my order in this holiday season. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Good. I mentioned that I thought you were the plug at CPS.
I take the pictures. I don't know what you got for me. I don't know.
I was just trying to get into the comms department, and I was like, yo, this kid is like taking all these photographs with Janice, and he's like everywhere. Like, he knows what's good. And you're like, dude, I'm just here on an internship. I don't know.
When you start to get into the government and political world, you say less and less, okay?
well, you
learned that. That's the first rule of the internship.
Listen, I just listen a lot and just sit back, and then I'll take notes and then quietly talk to who I need to talk to, and that's how I navigate through this world of government. but your photography has been speaking very loud this year. So you've even though you don't have a big voice, but we've seen that through some of the interviews that you've done with the Tribune, with Chicago Block Club,
Yeah.
and then also with WTTW Chicago Tonight. You've been out there plugging the book away, talking about your experience this year, which has been absolutely, I have to imagine, been transformative for you as an individual to experience this.
Yeah.
How can you summarize the last 8 to 12 months of 2020? Because there's just so much that has happened, but also happened to you.
Our movement is just at a very fast moving pace. And I think, this year was something that showed us how much can come at us at one time and how we have to be ready to move and adapt and take on things. 6 months ago, I couldn't have even imagined in my wildest dreams my life being the way that it is with all that I capture and what I'm doing and promoting. But I think this summer really compelled everyone to be a better person, be a better, neighbor to everyone else, and figure out how we can, do better in this world and work better together. But, all together, this has been that fire hose. You're trying to get a sip of water and it just does not turn off.
No, there's been like no chill for 2020. It's been absolutely nonstop. There's always something to follow up something, and there's been some bright moments of cheer and joy that we could find in entertainment or news bites or anything that is hopeful. But for the most part, it's just been a rain dance of misery. and unfortunately, you've been out there capturing a lot of it. Let's start from the top of the year. I read that you were kind of like bored at the top of the quarantine, which during March was really quiet. The world was shutting down, but there wasn't the unrest that ended up unraveling later in the spring. So take me into that. Like I imagine you already had your camera, but you decided to then start to venture out.
Yeah. So with the photography that I was doing when it comes to protest, I've been covering protests in Chicago for years. This wasn't something that was new for me. It was sort of business as usual, but I was even more compelled to cover this one and continue to cover it just because my freelance photography and everything else is pretty slow because of the global pandemic that we're in.
Right.
I wanted to get out and take some photos. But with this moment here, I think everyone, was compelled to do something different than what they've normally been doing, because even the folks that went out there and protested, if you look at, through Chicago, a lot of our protests are more of, you come out for one big protest and that's it for that. And then there are more actions that may not involve taking the street. But for this one, we were out there sometimes day after day after day with huge protests and week after week for months straight. So that was the thing for me. But the very first one that I went to on May 30th, I was actually at home. May 29th, there was a smaller protest, if you remember that, the night before, that went over through like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And everyone was just watching it through like Facebook Live and through Twitter videos. And then hours later was the big one that we saw that a lot of people went through for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, as people like you who are out there, like, informing a lot of us on social media, the news wasn't really out there like that. And we were relying a lot on independent journalists like yourself to be the gatherers of information. And, I would stay up till, 1, 2, 3 in the morning while you guys are working, and I'm following the scanners. I'm following the whatever video photography, everything that was happening. I was just like so just locked into my phone and the information, whatever we can gather. And the story that doesn't get told is that you guys are like the real heroes of this year, because what we would normally see is sort of the generalized version of the mayhem. And you guys were right there on the ground level, seeing the interaction between the protesters, between the police, between people who are just there to stir up trouble. You guys were actually there capturing it. Is that both exciting, scary? Like you mentioned that, which is crazy to say, because you said like I've been doing this for years and you're only 21, but do you still have that sense of anxiety when you're surrounded by a lot of people and a lot of people are anxiety are obviously there's a certain level of energy that heightens at any given moment. Does that take us into how that feels, or how do you manage that?
There's a chat box. Is this the audience talking to us?
No, you can. I mean, we can get to the chat space, but you don't. We'll try.
These are actual people. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Let's have a conversation. All right, so let's step back. Right, May 30th, which was 5 days after the murder of George Floyd. So the reason that we're out here originally is not a good reason. Like, we don't want to be out here for this. So there's already that level of, anxiety and anticipation. Number one, just being in the large crowd in the pandemic is enough to scare you in of itself. But then there's also so much happening. And as a photographer, one of the things that was hard for me to do was to say, okay, how can I look at this entire protest and condense it down to one little soundbite or one little news clip? So I was on Twitter covering this live, posting photos, videos, and tweeting minute by minute, showing what's happening. Because even with May 30th, they're the first photo you see in the book is of the huge wide shot, everyone marching on Dearborn from Federal Plaza. But there are moments there where the police officers were beating down protesters. I saw that. I have photos of that. I have videos of that. And then there are moments of that love and that joy and solidarity. So there was so much happening that I was trying to cover. But I think when you're around so many people, everyone's hyped up, and not hyped up to be violent, I'll say that. But when you're dealing with the police department, who's there to try to maintain some type of order and control, and people are there against the police, automatically you get that tension. So a lot of things happened this summer that weren't so joyous and smiling. There was a protest this summer where I was pepper sprayed myself in a group of police, among police officers who came out against the protesters. So there was definitely those highs and lows there, but I really just had that energy to keep moving and keep going because I knew that this fight was bigger than me. And folks like yourself who maybe could not have made it out to the protest, but you all still want to see what's happening and not just let this news cycle go away and let this be washed away with the next hot topic.
Yeah, I think you guys, when I say you guys, people like you that were out there covering this every day, you guys kept the story going and provided the information for us. And there's always that fake outrage that happens whenever something happens, but this was legit. People were outraged by obviously George Floyd, but then also the response from local authorities and the way that protesters were being treated. And I mean, that caused a next level of outrage. And you're absolutely right that I think I made a determination that it wasn't safe for me to be out there because I didn't feel like that was the best way for me to be an advocate or be a supporter. But I salute anyone who went out there and actually put feet on the ground and were moving and towards the righteous justice.
And that's a real thing, though, because, you don't have to necessarily be out in the streets to support and advance this work. I'm not the kind of guy to go out with a sign and, yell and scream. But my way of being involved was photography.
Yeah.
So everyone has their way. And that's one of the things that I'm not criticizing someone for not being out there by saying you're not out there, so you don't get to see this, you're not a part of this. We're still trying to bring this in and make this inclusive for folks who couldn't have made it out. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that what hopefully happened or is happening is that these events and the awareness that is being brought, it's no longer you can deny it and say there's always a justification whenever something happens with bad police behavior. It's there's always one bad apple, and this spotlight on the systemic racism and inequality that happens in law enforcement, and it was undeniable, which hopefully has led to more allies to raise their voice and become stronger advocates to fight against the large police budgets that are happening and the extensive overtime that they receive, and how those dollars could be better utilized, and also better training could be deliberated. But one of the things that made interest me, and I was following your timeline, your social media a lot this year, was that sometimes you would come across police that were familiar with you through social media work and they knew who you are. Does that put you in kind of a dangerous position, or is there a respect level there? How does that work?
I mean, that's not fun. I don't like that at all. I was at a protest recently and a police officer was commenting on my work. And just to prove to me that he knew who I was, he showed me my Twitter. But what I noticed was when he went to my Twitter account, he wasn't following me. But I was the only person in his search bar. So that was definitely something. And then we had an incident over the summer that I tweeted about, which you could be referencing, where I went to a protest at the Columbus statue and I was commenting about how a specific officer was like pretty much looking menacing, staring people down, trying to look intimidating. And I was tweeting about that, and I was filming him and singling him out. The next time I came outside, I'm walking past a big group of police officers, and he calls me out by name. And then I walk over, and another officer calls me out by name. So that let me know, like, these people are watching what I'm doing and watching my work. But I think when it comes to level of respect, I wasn't too biased over the summer. Yes, I'm a human with my own emotions and feelings in the moment that I'm talking about, just giving it to you straight. But at the same time, I wasn't too critical of different moments. I wanted to really just put this out and let people see it. So when it comes to like the book that I put together, I know that my Twitter, it can get opinionated, but this book has no opinions in it. Every photo has a caption, which is the date, the neighborhood, the name of the protest, the name of the person in the photo, and exactly what's happening. I didn't tell you if this was a good thing or a bad thing because I wanted this to be a discussion piece and for people to take it for themselves. So police officers can go look at my work and maybe say that, okay, maybe we didn't handle the situation so well. Maybe we're able to look at this footage and see what went well and what went wrong, or just kind of realize, how it looks. There was a protest I covered over in Holman Square. It was like a Freedom Square rally. And it was beautiful. I took one of my favorite photos of the summer there. But what I didn't like about it was right across the street at the CPD site, they had the police officers line the entire block with their riot shields. And it's like, look at us here. We're having a good time. You guys come out with the riot shields, and now everyone's antsy. Now the bike marshals are moving up. Now folks are staring at you. Now folks are cussing the police out. So I think when you can kind of see that order of events a little better, it kind of allows people to get a better sense of what's really going on and what triggers people, so we can prevent that from happening in the future.
Yeah, I read that you were very intentional about showing the events that led up to the outcomes, so that people can decide for themselves and see the sort of the storyline evolve through your photographs. There's a responsibility that I think you have acknowledged of being honest and truthful through the work. And how important is it that people can see that, like, you're not being biased, like you're just showing it the way you're experiencing and seeing it. And one of the things that I noticed, this was an event that happened over the summer where I think you had video record something. I can't remember exactly the incident, but it was something that was detrimental to someone. And you took the responsibility of pulling down the video because you're worried or out of fear that it would be used in retaliation against that person. So was that weight of responsibility sort of thrust upon you? Did you kind of realize at that moment or at some moment that you're like, oh my, like people are paying attention to what I'm doing, and for better or for worse, they're using this information, and I need to sort of be the jury and the judge about how and what I send goes out?
So one of the best parts about me is, as an independent photographer, I'm able to go through and decide what I want to cover, where I want to go, what I want to say. There's no one that tells me what to do. There's no editor. There's no boss there. And the number one thing that I wanted to do out here this summer was just to amplify the voices of people by way of photography. People will look at a photograph, and that can kind of draw them in and see what's happening. So with that protest in particular, that's the one that I mentioned earlier about where I was pepper sprayed at. There was a video that I had of protesters and police clashing, and I was told by some of the organizers, like, hey, you should take this video down because it can put our safety at risk. When I was told that, I immediately took down that video, everything I posted, and I didn't film anything else for the rest of the day, because I knew that I didn't care about, getting this out, getting likes, getting retweets, getting attention. If what I was doing was detrimental to the work that you're trying to do, is no longer positively helping you get your message out, I'll stop. And I was able to take that down, and I got a lot of backlash from it. A bunch of just racist white people from the other side of Twitter, just all of my direct messages, commenting on my photos, finding my email address, call me every type of racial slur they can, just because they were upset about that moment. But I knew that if I'm able to protect someone, because I'm not here to hurt anybody, so if I can protect them, I'll do that. But in a sense of just like the bias, I really try my best to go out and cover as many people as possible. I joke with folks that Uber loves me a lot because I've spent a lot of money getting around the city. But in this book, you're going to see photos from a Trump rally. You're going to see photos from a pro-police rally. I went out there among all the Trump supporters and still got in there, got the shots, gave them their video, and gave them their time to speak. So there wasn't that suppression in there of me trying to not show some people because of my own personal thoughts and beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamel Hill, I don't know if you watch her on Stick to Sports. She had a wonderful commentary after the election on her show, and like about talking about like all the hate messaging that she gets, and she gave a big FU to anyone who isn't like who identifies with a certain level of politics and hatred.
Yeah.
I know that's an easy sort of, I won't say easy, but that's a way to express the hurt that comes through those messaging. What is that? I don't want to say what is it like, but how do you manage your that like seeing that? Do you deliberately try to avoid reading them, or is there a certain enlightenment that comes with reading people's messaging? Because it takes an effort for you to like someone to sit down and write it so they mean it when they put something in your inbox. How do you manage that or cope with that?
I don't want to jinx myself here, but I don't get hate mail.
Good.
That's been one of the best parts about this summer. The reception has been overwhelmingly positive. I don't have people coming to me negatively, talking bad about the work that I'm doing, because people just realize what it's about, what it's here for, what I'm trying to do. So I've been fortunate this summer that I haven't had those backlash moments, besides that one incident there. But, those folks, that's what they do. Internet. So
trolls.
I do want to just go ahead and mention that internet trolls exist. They've existed this entire summer, and that's been the thing there. But like actual real people, it hasn't affected me. And the reason why is because I'm a photographer. So what I'm doing is I'm photographing other people. So if people are posting negative comments, it's not about me personally. It's about, whatever they see in that moment, and that's your opinion there. With journalists, if you're writing stories and you're putting down your own words, your own opinions, that comes with it. With photographers, it's a little easy because I'm not writing photo captions and putting those out. Individual photo by photo is not going to the story. So I'm not really, subjected to that much there. Mm-hmm. But when I see comments about it, I have to just look at it and just see, is this an actual person? Is this a troll account? And a lot of the negative comments that come from troll accounts, I honestly laugh at them. Like I just see that it's funny and I write them off, but I don't really let that stuff get to me personally.
Yeah. What is we'll go to the chat space. What is something that you witnessed that surprised you or even shocked you? Is there anything that happened during the height of the protests and some of the rioting?
What surprised me the most was just how well organized and the family atmosphere of these protests. I will go out to them and they have people who are there and their only job is to give you food and give you water along the route. There are bike marshals protecting you. They have the spaces set up, the route set up, their megaphones, their signs. So just to see the organization of how these were able to come about in so many different things. One of the beauties of Chicago is we're a large city with 2.7 million people. So there are protests about everything. And I'm going to protest. And like even in this book, it's so diverse as far as who's protesting, who's organizing, who are the organizers. There's no certain group or person who's like leading this entire book. I went, and covered everybody. One of the sections in the book is about the Dreadhead Cowboy. That's the title page of the book. He has 2 sections in the book. We have, Raid Inglewood, their Envision Inglewood events. We have Cops Out CPS protests. Like there are so many different things around here. So just to see how, even though they were planned by different people, they all had that level of camaraderie, organization, people coming together, and seeing people able to, if there's a conflict, the people handle it. The police will see an agitator or someone come in to try to stir the group up from the other side, and they won't do anything about it. So just to see how the people had to protect themselves was something that was really interesting and surprising to me to really be out there. And also just to see how what was also surprising was how easy it is to take over an intersection. I may have to keep that in mind. You know, taking over streets and intersections. But yeah, I was like, all right. You know, I was at Millennium Park 2 days ago looking at the Christmas tree, and the intersection right outside of there, I'm like, we've taken over this intersection at least 5 times. I've been in this intersection over this summer. So just looking at that dynamics and seeing places where it was like, I had 500 people here protesting, and now just seeing it regular, that was one of the interesting things to kind of see Chicago from both sides as I traveled all across the city.
Yeah. One of the things that's really interesting is that you found this this path of yours, and you're still in school. So you're a senior this year at Columbia College. Shout out to Columbia College, class of 20.
Kennedy King College. I got my associate's degree from Kennedy King. It was the City College of Chicago, and transferred to Columbia. This is actually my 3rd semester.
You are following my path, sir. I did the same thing at Harold Washington. Got my associates, transferred over to Columbia to study radio broadcast.
Oh, yeah, exact same. I took a few classes at Harold Washington my last semester so I can be closer to the loop. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you definitely probably saved yourself about $60,000.
Yeah, and a lot of headaches because the courses there, you know, it's much simpler doing the gen eds there. But this isn't my city college like here.
Yeah.
I've done my press on them already. All day.
I still speak with professors at Harold Washington. They're fantastic people. The institute needs some work though.
Yeah, we've seen this summer all of the places, and I guess I can mention that too. Just really seeing how systemic racism is everywhere. A lot of times we think of racism as just, and that prejudice is just someone calling you a name, but just looking at the ownership and all of the different places where Black people are being marginalized and people of color are just, rooted in the system. That's been something that has really opened my eyes as how much work we have to do. Even in media, you know, I've been able to tackle this fight of we're looking at the media isn't covering us accurately. The media isn't showing the whole story. So I came out single-handedly try to counter that. There are photos in this book that are exclusive photos. News outlets were at some of these rallies and demonstrations. They will get the beginning, the speaking portion, but by the time the dancing and the singing happened, they were gone. No one has that stuff. So there are some things in here that no one has but me.
I give you a lot of credit too, because you were really fighting that front, and I would see like your responses or replies to news media sometimes outside of the country who were looking for coverage and they were trying to use or get permission to use some of your work, but it was always the worst of an incident. It wasn't to show the contrast of like, no, this is what 90% of the day looked like, but you're trying to capture the 10 and 5% where there was conflict, and that's the exciting part to sell your news or sell your channel. And I give you a lot of props for fighting that fight and saying, no, this is not the way that you guys are going to publish stories and share this story with this way of falsifying what's happening in Chicago, and you're not going to do it. So I give you a lot of props for that, and I thank you for doing that.
Thank you. You know, and that's just the way when it comes to coverage, because if you look at the news, the purpose of the news is to show exactly what's happening and what people will see the most. With my protest coverage, my angle wasn't just, real time, the story is developing. My angle was, they're coming out here and they're like, for example, there was a break the piggy bank. Their entire thing was the police department has this much money, all that money can go into these other services. So there was a symbolic moment in the protest, and that photo's in the book, where they're like physically breaking open this pinata that's, you know, shaped as like a police officer as a pig. And that was the moment. So I didn't care what happened. That had to be shown because that was the one reason why they came. Everything else is extra, but you have to get that core. And what really separated me from the pack with media was, if you're a general, you know this, if you're a general assignment reporter, you may go to a press conference and then go to a charity event and then go to a protest and then tomorrow you're at a crime scene. So it's hard to wrap your head around it. But because I was only covering protests, I knew the people who were out here. I was like, oh, I just saw that guy last week and he was on the microphone or he was getting hassled by police officers. So those little nuances that I remember because I'm only covering this, a lot of other people miss that. And that's why people really gravitated towards my coverage because I was able to give those details. And also, I'm a lifelong Chicagoan, so I'm able to say, oh, we're in this neighborhood. This happened here. This is something about this block that makes it significant, things like that.
Yeah. I read that you shot 17,000 frames.
17,000. And they're all sitting. I'm actually doing backups right now.
I was going to ask, where do you put 17,000 frames at?
Yeah. This is 1 terabyte. I have 4 of these. And I'm actually like right now backing these up because, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. But 17,000. I started, I used to like sort through the photos and delete the bad ones, keep the good ones kind of thing. But then I was like,
it's a lot of time to do that.
Yeah. And I'm like, I can get the storage. Let's keep everything. So the book has 117 images.
Yeah.
But there's a total of 17,000. You can see a little more on my Instagram from each protest, but 17,000. So everything is capped. And that's photo. I was also doing video. And, countless times of footage.
Was there because this really encompassed your life. So I imagine that you weren't in school during the summer. So this became your job, something that you just picked up and started to do. Did you kind of,
Through a portion of it, because I was shoot all the way through September. So school did start back while I was still doing the protest. There were a few moments where I was like, hey, can I, leave class a little early, trying to get, because my teachers understood what I was doing. And, with the Dreadhead Cowboy, after that incident happened, when I went to class, my teachers and classmates were talking about that. And I had to do a whole presentation where the class gave me just this, I was not prepared for this, a Q&A about it. So they were also invested in it. But over the summer, I was able to really give it all my time.
Do you kind of feel like I don't want to use the word celebrity, but like you kind of like you're usually a student, you kind of just want to fall into the the cloak of just being a student, but because your work is so loud and it's making a lot of noise, that do you kind of like shy away from wanting to talk about it, or do you embrace it? Because you said like you were surprised at having to do this. Is that something that you welcome?
I welcome it because I'm able to shape it in a way that I think is best.
Yeah.
My proudest moments from this entire summer that stick with me is I've had folks reach out to me saying, hey, how can I get involved? How can I come out? People came out and told me they're at the Freedom Square rally. I had a couple friends that came out and they were like, hey, I saw you tweeting about this, so I came out to join. There's a guy from Indiana. He was here in Chicago just for the weekend, and he reached out to me. I didn't know him. He reached out to me, hey, I want to come out and cover some protests. I'm in Chicago for the weekend. I brought him out to the NSARS protest. He did a great video, made a highlight tape, and he gave that to the organizer. That's Julian Short. So that's my proud moment about it. And even with this book, with this is in my face. How many people make a book and it's not, they're writing the book, their faces on it? My goal was to cement these folks in history. When they are, 50, 60 years from now, they're able to see this. So I'm embracing the fact that I'm able to take this on me and shift it off to other people and show that and get more people involved. I had a few people tell me that their parents were, kind of leery about the protest. They thought it was dangerous and scary, and they would show, because what the news was showing, they would show them my Twitter feed, and then their parents changed their opinions and wanted to protest, wanted them to see the work. So me being able to pull folks together a little more, that is what I'll be proud of more than any of those 17,000 images.
Well, the thing that bothers me about people who critique protest, it's the people who never protested.
Yeah.
And it's always why do they protest the police? Why don't they protest when they can just
Their
sort of any sort of negative story that they can think of, anyone who was injured or hurt or killed? Why don't they protest that? And you made a good I was reading, you were making a good point there, like we have to be there to show them that we are, or the communities of color and Black communities are protesting when violence occurs, when injustice occurs, because the let's face it, the commercial media doesn't do that. And I have to tell people all the time, and this is one of the things that bugs me a lot, is that when that happens, that like they'll criticize because the police thing, because that's such huge, you can't ignore it. But when a child is killed or a child is injured or something happens that's terrible, there's people and organizations throughout the city that will go there the night of or the day after and be physically present to provide either mental or physical support for those families or anyone that's affected by it. But you have to read about it, and it's not blasted across social media. So I think that what you guys are doing, getting out there, making it known that these communities care and that they want change as well. And no one ever signs up to live in a violent neighborhood or community. No one welcomes that. And I think that with your guys, with you and people like you who are doing the independent journalism because of all the cuts that are happening in journalism across the board, that we need to be able to share that story and tell people, like, no one enjoys being poor. No one enjoys being in a violent neighborhood. No one signs up for that. There's no benefit to any of that. And this sort of corrupted thought that people are okay with it needs to be eradicated somehow. And I think that the work that you guys are doing is going to help that.
Thank you. And I'll also just add to the fact that the people that are out here doing this work day in and day out, they didn't start doing it this summer. They've been doing it. I've seen some people out here this summer that I just met this summer. I have photos of them from years ago. I had no idea who they were, but they were out here doing it. But they're not doing it for media attention. People weren't.
No one is. Yeah, no one is.
And do this. So it was like I came out and chose to do my best to spotlight them. But none of this was like, hey, Vashon, can we cover it like this? Can we do like that? None of that. I went out and I did it. But people have to realize that we don't have to prove anything to you. We're in here. We're trying to do this work, and people are doing their best. And it goes from that. And then we go and we cover it and we talk about it piece by piece. But that work is happening. And I wanted to just go out here and see what I can offer to it. But, they're doing that, whether they get attention for it or not, because everything is that mainstream news media. But it's just like, you don't have to prove this to anyone that's an outsider who only wants to criticize you, who only wants to see that negative narrative and never give you any assistance if they don't have any power over your life.
Yeah. I also like, I love your attitude about this, because you're like, it's not about me. It's about those people that I'm capturing in their stories and telling their stories. And I just love the way that you've handled this. And for a 21-year-old to sort of get the follows and the likes, that could easily turn into a big ego thing. And that is something that you absolutely haven't subscribed to. And so I love the way that you're managing this, and you've done so much in this year that some people haven't done in their entire lives, and what you've been able to accomplish. And I hope that you can at least reflect on some of the impact that you've been able to have this year, and for those who are watching and following.
Thanks, man. I'm a real guy. Everyone who messages, look at those messages. I respond to those messages. I try to, be as interactive as possible. But it's like people see me like, you're that guy from Twitter with the 12,000 followers. It's like, yeah, whatever. But it's like I'm still, the same person before all of this happened. I still, anyone you guys want to talk or interview me, you reached out to me. I responded to it. I'm here. I'm on it. And it was like, what's your viewership like? How many? These are my criteria. Like, you want to talk? Let's talk and let's do it. So I'm trying to really just change that mode and that narrative of, who can get and do this work, who is able to, like these gatekeepers and these barriers to entry, just show folks we can knock those down. And if you just do this work with a good intention and from a positive, honest place, the possibilities are endless for you. So I've spoken to my peers at Columbia recently. I've been guest speakers in courses just to really get that message out and show people someone that looks like them, because we talk a lot about the youth led this movement, we're talking about teenagers, 20, 21, 22, 23. Hey, that's me too. I'm a 21-year-old just like them. So we're all in this space. So I'm not removed from that category.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a couple minutes left. What is it? So you're going through your year. Like, what do you hope to aspire to be? I mean, you're kind of living the dream right now by doing what you love, which is what all of us can hope and strive and maybe one day achieve. You're doing that work already. Like, where do you forecast yourself in the next several years?
You know, I'm in school right now, getting a degree in television with the concentration of production directing. So I definitely see myself more in the future working in that TV field once, you know, the freelance photography and that aspect kind of, you know, gets a little lost. I mean, my back starts to hurt a little more. I want to go sit down in that studio and get that schedule. But I've just been taking it as far as it takes me. There's a lot of pressure because, like you mentioned, the things I'm doing now, folks aspire to do this later on in their life, not even so early. So there's this pressure of like, what's next? How can I top this? How can I keep going? But I'm going to continue to go out and cover Chicago. I want to continue to cover community events, continue to cover protests. So people will continue to see me out here doing this work and just taking that where it takes me. But as long as I have a camera out here doing this work, that's what I love. Even back in high school, I was a kid who would take his camera to homecoming. Literally, I'm at the homecoming taking photos of other people dancing and having fun. But to me, that's how I enjoyed it. So as long as I'm doing that, I'm content with whatever comes behind it. You know, having all the social media followers isn't the most fun thing because now I can't just talk crazy and no one ever sees it and now it goes away. For this stuff. So I'm telling folks, hey, you know, enjoy what you have because the larger the platform gets, it, even like Twitter now, I can't just go spew off all these random tweets because there's so many people watching, there's expectations, people commenting. So, you know, everyone really just enjoy where you are. Your work may not require you to have a large platform as mine does.
Exactly. Well said, sir. Thank you for joining us on Weekend at Gabe's. We don't have thousands of followers yet, but we do appreciate you joining us for our 2 followers. But it's all good. But man, thank you so much for finding time with us. We hope to have you back. Whenever I get a copy of my book, I will definitely reach out to have you sign it for me because I would
2 days. It's made to order. It'll come to you in 2 days. Right now it's $25. You know, stay tuned for the holidays. May even knock it down a little more, but all of the books are out here. Chicago Protest, Joyful Revolution, available on Amazon.
There you go. Appreciate it, man. I didn't even get into to talk about Thanksgiving, man, because I'm pretty sure, is that one of your favorite holidays?
Well, I mean, it's not much to say. And as a Chicago photographer, the end of every year, I covered all the protests. I mean, I'm so stuck on protests. All the parades.
Yeah.
The Thanksgiving parade, the Arts and Dark Halloween parade, the Mag Mile Lights Festival. I volunteered and photographed all of that. And now my Thanksgiving Day tradition of the parade is gone. So I have no more comment on Thanksgiving. But
all right, well, you could just use your phone this time and take a picture of your plate. Hopefully, it's not a story. Right. So. All right, Vashon, man, enjoy the rest of your holiday. We'll talk to you on the other side of 2020, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. See you. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Vashon Jordan Jr., Chicago Protest, A Joyful Resolution. It is out there now. Go support local. Go support local independent talent. That's what we need to do more of. I like it. All right, so that's our time tonight here on Weekend at Gabe's. We'll be back at it Friday night with Neek, who has the new album out, Innenstadt, which is German for inner city and downtown. So we're going to talk about his new album that just came out. Don't forget to follow me on the social medias at Weekend Gabe and also local 91.1 FM Mondays and Saturdays as we review independent and commercial hip-hop releases. So that is the place to find me. Everyone have a great night. We'll do it again on Friday. Enjoy your Thanksgiving and please be safe. Let's talk on Friday. Have a good night.